Broken Arrow is slated to release in roughly about 2 months in June of 2025, and the developers just revealed the final American specialization, or spec, which is based around US Special Forces. There are still, I believe, 2 Russian specs to be revealed, likely following in the coming weeks, which of course we'll cover here, but today it's all about the spec I've been waiting to see revealed forever, so let's just dive in. This spec will combine different US units like the 75th Rangers, multiple US Special Forces groups, the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, as well as stealth drones and a ton of cool aircraft. Of course, to make a deck in Broken Arrow, you always have to combine 2 specs together to form one deck. So what other spec in the US are you going to mix with this one? Let me know down in the comments what you think will be some good combos. The Recon units of the US Special Forces, or SOF spec, are focused on stealth and good optics while still being equipped with weapons capable of dealing with heavy targets using hit and run tactics. The Ranger RRC Recon team is a 6-man unit that can choose between a suppressed loadout with HK-416s focusing more on stealth and short-range engagements, or a longer-range one with battle rifles, a marksman rifle, and a MAAWS recoilless rifle. Both loadouts also come with a machine gun for fire support. The Ranger Sniper team consists of 3 men, which can pick between a bunch of different weapon loadouts, from marksman rifles in smaller or larger caliber to a larger 300 Winchester bolt-action rifle, and even a 50 BMG anti-material option. Depending on the loadout, the team can even have one-off AT-4 anti-vehicle launchers, really going for that anti-material dedicated role. The Green Beret Recon team consists of 4 men with very different loadouts available to them. There's a more medium-ranged focus setup with a machine gun, marksman rifle, and an XM25 grenade launcher, a short-ranged suppressed loadout with an M202 flash incendiary rocket launcher. The weirdest one would have to be the sniper competition loadout, with each member of the team having a different marksman or sniper rifle, all the way from 7.62 up to a .50 caliber M107 anti-material rifle. Definitely a very interesting loadout, with not a lot of options for CQB, however. The 6-man para-rescue team with 2 loadouts. One focuses on CQB with shotguns, suppressed rifles, smoke grenades, and flashbangs to clear out enemy infantry from buildings ASAP. The other loadout specializes in more long-range combat again, including Stinger anti-air missiles of the new J variant, and a laser designator for use in the recon or spotting role. So far, you can obviously tell just by looking at the recon infantry, this spec has a lot of options in terms of how and where you want to engage, which is why I just love Broken Arrow for the customization of how you want to set up your custom built deck, which can be different every single time, even by just changing a couple of loadouts here and there. Some recon vehicles for the spec include the MATV, which can be equipped with a 50 cal, a Mark 19, and even a Javelin top-down anti-tank missile. Apparently, when the vehicle is not moving, a crew member uses another one of those 50 caliber M107 sniper rifles to engage enemy units as well. Kind of an interesting to keep in mind if you're attacking this vehicle and suddenly your guys start getting sniped out of nowhere. Pay a little bit of more extra attention to the left MATV. You can see the Javelin as well as the extra protection against incoming projectiles on it. There's also this little guy on the right with a cowboy hat on. I'm not sure if that's just there for this image or if that's an actual like random US Delta can maybe run around with that on. The RQ-170 Sentinel and the MQ-9 Reaper are 2 very different recon drones for this spec. With the Sentinel being a high-flying, fast, and stealthy drone, it's meant to see without being seen, whereas the Reaper is the most heavily armed drone in the US arsenal, carrying 2 smart bombs, 8 Hellfire missiles, and combining Stinger or AIM-9 anti-air missiles. For the infantry, of course, you can expect to see a bunch of different loadout options, just like within the recon category. The 12-man Delta Force Detachment can carry suppressed weapons, shotguns, M32 multiple grenade launchers, and flashbangs to make them a prime building clearing force. However, an alternate setup for Delta is focused on longer range engagements, armed with the new MRGG weapons, all using new 6.5mm Creedmoor ammo. The infantry backbone of this spec would be the 9-man Ranger Squad, focusing on close-range combat with M4 carbines, grenade launchers, LMGs, and a SMAW-D launcher with bunker buster ammo on the one hand, or you can swap out the SMAW for SCAR marksman rifles and a recoilless rifle for a more defensive anti-vehicle setup. The 6-man Ranger RAWS, or Ranger Anti-Tank Weapon System, can be equipped with 3 Carl Gustavs or upgraded to the M3E1, or perhaps I mean the M3A1 MAAWS, which gives it both more range and armor penetration. Of note here is that just due to the sheer volume of rounds that this team can put out, the Active Protection System, or APS, of enemy vehicles might end up either getting completely overwhelmed or just depleted, resulting in the target being damaged or destroyed. As we've seen in other specs, the US SOF also gets a 6-man support section, which can pick between two kind of very distinct roles. While both variants have two MG338 machine guns, which are somewhat similar to the archaic but still kicking M250 cal Browning, one comes with a Stinger J for anti-air duties or a Javelin AT launcher. This Javelin is equipped with a new launch unit, giving it a longer engagement range. Finally, they mentioned the Mark 47 Striker team, a 6-man team equipped with two Mark 47 Striker automatic grenade launchers. These grenades are programmable airburst ones that can target not just ground units, but even slow-flying or stationary enemy helicopters, which sounds nasty, especially in a closer city fight. Say the reinforcements are being deployed and you get to shoot them down as they're hovering or coming in. This could be a pretty sneaky unit in that situation. While the US SOF spec does not come with a dedicated support vehicle, it does have a few transports that can be modified to give light but mobile fire support. The RSOV, or Ranger Special Operations Vehicle, which might look familiar, it's going to be based on a Land Rover Defender, is the fastest non-flying infantry transport in the US faction. It can transport 6 soldiers on roads at 130 kilometers an hour, and while it's not armored, it can be equipped with an M250 cal, a Mark 47 AGL, assuming this is the same airburst launcher as we just mentioned above. The Flyer GMV is a slightly slower transporter of also 6 soldiers compared to the RSOV, but it does have access to slightly more upgradable weapon systems, a 50 caliber GAU 19 minigun, as well as a 30mm autocannon besides the weapons that the RSOV can already be equipped with. Then the LMTV Warpig is an LMTV truck with pretty much everything non-essential ripped off to make room for more activities. Carrying up to 12 soldiers, it comes with a M240 medium machine gun in the front next to the driver, with a second mount in the back of the vehicle. A dismount can be given just another M240 MMG, just to keep it very cheap and simple, an M250 cal, the Mark 47 Striker AGL, Fletcher laser guided rockets, or even a TOW-2 ATGM to deal with heavy armor and range, thus supporting the units that you're bringing into the operation area with that truck. With the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, or SOAR, supporting this spec, you can expect to see some sweet helicopters as part of it. The MH-6M Little Bird, which can carry up to 6 soldiers, can drop off its passengers in the middle of urban areas due to its tiny size, but it doesn't come with any countermeasures, meaning it's pretty susceptible to enemy AA missiles. You can upgrade it with a tiny optronic ball camera to stand in as a cheap, sort of on-the-fly recon helicopter. The MH-60M Blackhawk can carry up to 12 men, like the regular Army variant, but this one comes equipped with better sensors as well as electronic countermeasures. The M240 MGs on either side can be upgraded to GAU-17 or GAU-21 fast-firing guns for even heavier fire support. The MH-60X Silent Hawk reminds me of the Ghost Hawk from Arma 3, which comes with stealth technology to allow it to deploy troops further behind enemy lines, hopefully somewhat undetected. Now, it doesn't have any weapons, however, and the modifications to make the airframe more stealthy do cause it to perform worse compared to regular MH-60s. At this rate, this is not going to be a surprise, but the MH-47G Chinook carries better sensors and guess what? Better countermeasures compared to the regular variant. However, it also has room for 2 more weapon stations for a total of 4, carrying up to 32 soldiers, lifting up to 12.5 tons of cargo. You can also install 4 GAU-21 rapid-fire 50 caliber machine guns and can even be upgraded with an even better so-called large aircraft infrared countermeasure suite for more protection against incoming missiles. For dedicated recon and attack helicopters, the US SOF spec is definitely one to take a look at. The AH-6M Killer Egg forgoes the option to transport troops, but instead it carries 2 GAU-17 miniguns with the option to add GAU-19B 50 cal miniguns, Hydra rocket pods with 7 missiles in each, Dagger guided rocket pods with 8, as well as a pair of Stinger or Hellfire missiles. Like the transport Little Bird, it doesn't carry any countermeasures, but you can fly very low across terrain or even just between taller buildings, which should help it sneak up on enemy units for quick hit and run attacks, and it's actually pretty cheap, so it might be cost effective in the end. While the MH-60M Direct Action Penetrator, or DAP, can only carry 6 men versus the Black Hawk's 12, the passenger capacity reduction is due to the fact it can actually carry guided or unguided 70mm rockets, Hellfire or Stinger missiles, as well as M230 30mm chain guns, sort of similar to that seen as on the Apache. The DAP comes with some of the best ECM or electronic countermeasure protection in Broken Arrow. The RAH-66 Comanche, a favorite unit of mine from Command & Conquer Generals, comes with the ability to carry a mix of guided and unguided rockets, as well as Stinger or Hellfire missiles. It can also be given a radar upgrade to give it more detection range, and as the devs so nicely said here, this allows it to see first while itself being seen last. The AH-64E Guardian variant of the Apache is the most advanced variant, capable of carrying a large number of guided and unguided rockets, but also the JAGM anti-tank missile, which is a longer range compared to the Hellfire. Furthermore, its wingtips can be given Stinger missiles to deal with closer range air threats like other helicopters, or with ECM equipment for higher levels of protection. While all the toys are coming out in this spec, the planes available to the US SOF are some of the most looked forward to by the community. The AC-130U Spooky and AC-130J Ghost Rider are two variants you can send out to the battlefield to rain death from above. The 130U carries a 25mm GAW-12, a 40mm Bofors, and a 105mm howitzer, whereas the 130J is equipped with a 30mm GAW-23 and another 105mm howitzer. You can even upgrade these planes with GBU-53 small diameter bombs, Hellfire missiles, as well as Griffin missiles, which can track targets that are laser designated by the AC-130 itself. Now, a quick aside here, I am not sure how this will perform in Broken Arrow, seeing as it's just not meant for these peer VP or even peer versus near peer engagements in real life. The plane will obviously be very susceptible to enemy fighters and heavy long-range AA, but perhaps it'll find a spot to operate somewhere and still be sort of useful. While it can deal with pair drops or incursions behind friendly lines, it would still have to worry about dealing with potential long-range missiles from enemy fighter aircraft. The MC-130H can carry 64 soldiers to be pair dropped, or up to 20 tons of equipment to airdrop that instead. It comes with additional countermeasures to hopefully deliver everyone safely to the target destination. The F-117 Nighthawk, the OG stealth fighter, will be in Broken Arrow as well, capable of carrying 500, 1,000, or 2,000 pound smart bombs, as well as JSOW gliding bombs or JASM cruise missiles. While the F-35A Lightning II lacks the ability to land or take off vertically, it does give it more room to carry heavier loadouts compared to the US Marine version. Besides a couple of AMRAAM AA missiles it carries by default, it can be given more AMRAAMs, 500 or 2,000 pound smart bombs, multiple Stormbreaker GBUs, one JSOW smart cluster bomb, one HARM anti-radiation missile, which is like to counter enemy radar AA or to seed basically, as well as one Joint Strike cruise missile. The F-22 Raptor, of course, very famous, had to be in here at some point, is also included in the SOF spec with similar loadouts available to it seen as on the F-35A. It is, however, equipped with short-range AIM-9X sightwinders by default, and it can be given the brand new AIM-260 JADM or Joint Advanced Tactical Missile for longer range air-to-air engagements. If you thought the stealth fighter was cool, the B-2 Spirit, the famous stealth bomber, is actually nuts when you look at it on paper. Capable of carrying 80 500-pound bombs, 16 2,000-pounders or a guided equivalent version of these, as well as 16 1,000-pound cluster gliding bombs, 16 JASM cruise missiles, and finally a B-61 tactical nuke. The developers did scale down the payload of the B-2 here actually, because realistically it could carry 16 of those nukes, but one is probably enough for Broken Arrow for now. But that concludes a little early preview of the new US Special Operations Forces or SOF spec, one with a lot of tools that seem very specialized, but likely also pretty expensive for the majority of them. So after looking at all of these units, which one or two would be your favorite? Is this going to sway your opinion of which specs you're going to combine? Let me know down in the comments and I'll catch you in the next one.